Hey, Bruce. Long night? Ooh, long 5 years. At least it's quiet. It was.
Hey, back off!
Hi, I'm sorry. Who are you?
Kamala?
Well, Kamala, your Emeraldite friend here is kind of on my shit list. Okay. I deserve it. Yeah, you're damn right you deserved it. Do the Avengers pose a danger to society? That was the question, Bruce. That was the question. Did you even check the science? Did you check
It was a
the
heist,
science?
Bruce.
No.
We were outsmarted.
No. The Terrigen reactor was unstable, and you knew that, and you still paraded it before the entire world.
So what? We just give up?
We didn't give up, Tony. We failed. At least I can admit that. No, we failed him. We failed him.
Hello once again to episode 8 of PlayStation Pals, a video game podcast. I'm your host Nick, and I am joined by the Iron Man to my Captain America, John.
Yay, so does that mean I have to be an asshole all episode and like really snarky?
I believe that's how you are normally, so
Ouch.
I don't think anything's changing.
All right. I mean, it's good to learn about yourself, so if that's the way I got to learn about myself, then so be it.
I know you don't look at the emails, but that's all the feedback we've been getting is, wow. This guy.
Can you shut this guy up, man? He's just, he talks too long, he's too loud, he's obnoxious. That's fair.
So I got to quiz you, John, to start this thing off. So
Sure.
What everyone just heard is a clip from Avengers in which Bruce Banner and Tony Stark go at it. They are played by Troy Baker and Nolan North, two very prolific video game voice actors. How many games can you name that they starred in together?
Oh my God, none. Together?
You can at least name one. You got to name one. You got to at least get one.
I mean, is Troy in one of the Uncharted? Oh wait, yeah, he's Uncharted 4, right?
Yes.
He's Sam, his brother.
Correct. Yep.
Yep. So I mean, I could probably name a lot of Troy Baker games. I don't know why I know him very well, but I like besides Uncharted, man, I don't think I could name you a single Nolan North game. So that's kind of where I'm stuck at.
Yeah, I hear you. It was very hard for me too, just quizzing myself and then trying to find all the games they've been in because they've been in so many. But Would you believe that they were both in The Last of Us?
Was Nolan the
careful
guy
about
with he was the shotgun guy in the beginning, right? Like not in the beginning, but no. Okay. No, who was he in Last of Us?
So I don't want to spoil much more about the character, but he is David.
Okay. Yep. I did not know that was Nolan North.
Neither did I. I was shocked about that. And then I knew that they were both in the Batman Arkham series.
Okay.
Troy Baker is Two-Face and Nolan North is the Penguin in the Arkham series. I would not have known the Penguin was Nolan North. I think that's like if you go back.
It's a testament to their abilities, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then in Saints Row 4, if you were a male, the male main character, they did both a different voice option for him. So in the Saints Row series, you can pick your voice. They each did one of the voice tracks for the main character. So.
All right. Well, I don't feel too bad now, not really being able to know any, because I feel like I knew the Batman ones, but obviously I know how much those games are to you. So of course those you could get that. But all right, not too bad then. Not too bad. Being able to get at least one.
Yeah. Like I said, they're so prolific. They've been in so many games. You knew that they're probably even in more games than we mentioned. So.
Right. I think if you go to like Troy Baker's like IMDb pages, he's probably got 400 projects, so it'd take a little bit to get a full list, but yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping the internet would have done it for me and like made that list, but they didn't. So it was just me comparing like both their lists side by side.
Well, I mean, like, you know, if there was a Mount Rushmore of video game voice actors, I mean, Troy Baker is probably number one, right? He's definitely making the list, and then it's probably Nolan North. You know, and then who are the two girls, right? The Ashley Birch and Laura Bailey, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, but there's also the female femshep. Like she's a famous one from back in the day, right?
Yeah. Oh boy. I should know her
come
name
on.
because
You should.
She's in Metal Gear. I should know her name. Jennifer Hale.
Well, Jennifer Hale. Thank you.
I should know that because yes, she is in the Metal Gear series. So.
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
All right. Well, if you're just joining us, here's the format of the show. John and I are both going to bring 3 things for us to talk about. It can be a news item. It can be a video game we're playing. It can be an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com. And please email us if you have a question or if you think we're wrong or if you just want to keep piling on to John that he's a sarcastic and a giant asshole. That's fine too, you know. Well, I'll happily read that email on the air here. So
love us, hate us, just let us know you're out there. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So any of those things, we're going to talk about them. We're going to go through them. And I'm going to kick it off with the first thing because, as you heard last week, John hates August. Sticking with his asshole moniker, he just hates everything. And of course, August, a month that has done nothing to him but exists, that he has to be down on. And as I reminded him last week that, hey, video games start coming out in August. Like, it's an exciting time. And I don't know if, like, the people over at PlayStation Australia heard me, but they tweeted out a big old image of all the games coming out. We retweeted this on our Twitter account, PS Pals Pod, all the games list. So I just thought we could go through some of the interesting ones. We don't have to touch on all of them because there's a few smaller games on here that I don't know anything about. But I don't know, John, did you see any games here that stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the image right now. Actually, if you want to shoot that over to me in Teams, Nick, just so I can take a peek. But just going off the top of my head, August 11th, I'm really looking forward to Cult of the Lamb. It looks like a very cutesy, weird kind of indie game, I guess, that has a little bit of town building in it, but also dungeon crawling, where you're mixing your abilities and gaining more things. Very roguelike type things. But yeah, you're a lamb that allows you have to get people to basically worship you and buy into your satanic religion type thing. So I got my eye on that one for sure. And then I'm really, really interested in Inscription. That's a game that's just now coming to consoles. It's been on PC for a while now. Did that come out this year, Nick, or was that last year? I think it was last year.
I think it was last year because it was in the Game of the Year kind of discussions.
Right.
It's currently sitting at like an 86 in OpenCritic, so it was a very good game of last year. It's a card game that's not a card game. It's got kind of something similar to like a Doki Doki Literature Club that I didn't play, but you played. But there's more to the game than just, you're playing a card game against a mysterious stranger. There's a lot more puzzle solving and other weird elements to the game. So
I've heard it's very meta. I think on like the PC version, there's kind of parts where you almost like leave the game, mess with some of the system files to change things that you need to. It's tries to do everything it can to subvert your expectations. And there's a guy that Nick and I both work with. Played this last year. He's primarily a PC gamer, but it was in his Game of the Year conversation, something that I think at one point he even said it might have been leading it. So, if you're into the weird kind of different video game experiences, that's definitely one I would look into as well. That one comes out on August 30th, I believe. So towards the end of the month, but it'll be here soon nonetheless. But other than that, man, I think the rest are kind of, if they review well, I might take a look. Roller Drome is something that seems to be getting a lot of buzz. All the previews that I've seen of that game are really praising it for its, I think, just the way it feels. It's Tony Hawk with guns. And also it's more single player focused than I kind of thought initially when I saw it. It looks based on the trailer like it is made for multiplayer, but I believe it's mostly a single player experience. So, you know, it is something I could find myself playing if it comes out and people are talking about it.
Was it Super Hot? Was the VR game where like you could slow-mo time and it was kind of like you could shoot and then move time a little bit and do all kinds of crazy things?
Yeah, Super Hot is awesome. Yeah, when I played it in VR, basically when your character moves is when time moves. So, you know, a guy's going to shoot at you and you can just stare at the bullet as long as you're not moving, but as soon as you start moving, it's going to do it. So it's almost like a puzzly type thing, but I'm sure you're going into the art style here, so go ahead.
Oh, no, that's what kind of Rollerdrome kind of reminds me of. It's kind of like you're doing tricks and there's enemies on screen and you have to take care of them while performing, you know, weird roller skater trips like out of Tony Hawk. So it's kind of almost like a weird puzzle like that. And, you know, there's probably going to be videos of people doing perfect runs on each level,
right.
Very similar to Super Hot or Hotline Miami, like just kind of like
right.
Here's an arena, here it's full of guys, you got to kill them all and do a bunch of cool tricks on roller skates while you do it. I recommend looking it up. It looks very interesting, and as John pointed out, the previews of this game have been through the roof.
Right, really unique art style too. You know, it's like almost cell shaded on acid. It's very clean, very thin, clean lines everywhere, with a little bit of jaggedness, which I know kind of is counterintuitive to what I just said. But yeah, check it out. It's got if anything, just a very unique look to it. Yeah. And then just a few more that I'm going to point out. A 2 Point Campus. From 2 Point Studios, which is just getting reviewed today. It's currently sitting at an 83 on OpenCritic. It's a sequel to 2 Point Hospital, so if you played that, you know what you're getting into. I kind of randomly will fall into these simulator games like 2 Point Campus or Jurassic World Evolution, just get kind of lost in the, you know, not the Twitch gaming that I'm used to doing, just watching the simulation take place and just, you know, acting as needed. There's kind of a little sublime feeling when I'm playing games like that. So I think everybody at some point, if you're a gamer, has some sort of affection for Roller Coaster Tycoon, which is kind of like the you know, the genesis of this. Well, I guess SimCity really is the genesis of this genre, but you know, that Roller Coaster Tycoon is where I did. So it's just prettied up Roller Coaster Tycoon that takes place on a university. So.
Yeah, and it's got a goofy sense of humor. It's absurd, as those games should be. And then finally, kind of like the big release, but I'm not sure what to think of it, is Saints Row. You know, they're kind of soft rebooting the series. We've talked about it on this podcast before with the Boss Factory, and then as we talked about the second half of the year, the bigger games, we talked about it. IGN released their first 15 minutes of game, and it looked pretty solid. It looked fun, but boy, is the internet so down on this game.
The tough crowd, that internet. Tough crowd.
Yeah, it seems like ever since the reveal trailer where it looked like a more like a woke Fortnite, people just have kind of like cannot get out of that image or the projection that they're putting on this game. And it very well might be that, but you know, we haven't seen enough, and it is coming, you know, in a few weeks here, and I really want it to be good because I really want to play some new, bigger games. So
yeah, I think that is one of my least favorite trends in recent gaming memory. Is ever since Fortnite came out, it seems like if you have a game where you're leaning towards crazy or zany or funny or anything like that, you almost immediately just employ the Fortnite art style and then try to add as much crazy shit as you can. Like, I'm even on this list, I'm looking at this game Rumbleverse, right? And there's a guy with a button-down shirt and a chicken head on, and you know, and it's got that kind of bubbly, round, cartoony, bright color art style to it, and it's getting a little tiring. So I mean, I think Saints Row, from a gameplay standpoint, is probably going to be just fine. You know, the amount of things you can do flying around with your wingsuit, or you know, the gunplay looks fun. I just hope that they don't get in their own way and make it so focused on this. Look at all the ways you can express yourself. It's like, no, man, I want to just play a game, have fun, drive around this world, and blow some shit up.
Right.
Please don't make me try and, like, I don't know, focus on the express myself aspect or what have you. So I'm pulling for you, man. I know how, you know, Nick's been talking about this game for a while. Even I think leading into the year, it was one of his most anticipated games. So hoping it comes out and does well for you. But it does have a hill to climb once the internet makes up their mind. With rare exception, like No Man's Sky comes to mind. They changed it, so we'll see.
Yeah, it was supposed to be out in February. That's why I kind of talked about it way back in 2021, and then it got pushed to August here. So, we'll see. We'll know very soon, and we'll definitely be talking about it on this show.
One last thing. On the games, I've just noticed that this one's here. Is I just want to give a quick shout out to Thymesia. Anybody who likes Souls games, especially Bloodborne, check this out. You can tell that this game is wearing Bloodborne on its sleeve. I can't speak to how it's going to feel. That's kind of where the From Software games really set themselves apart from other games. Is just they have a very specific feel to them, weightiness, and the way that characters move and things. So don't know if it's going to hit on that note, but it looks like it even has the rally mechanic that Bloodborne does, where you can kind of keep attacking and get some health back. So just if you are a uber Bloodborne / From Software fan, check out the Thymesia.
Cool. Yeah, and there's more games. Madden's coming, and there's a couple of JRPGs between Dust Diver 2 and Soul Hackers 2. And a bunch of indie games, Giga Bash, which was featured on the PlayStation blog. A bunch of games are coming. John, enjoy August more.
Sure,
play one of these games. Maybe you'll feel better.
I will try. Like I said, Cult of the Lamb. I am genuinely excited for, and but it's interesting, man. I mean, we're now living in this world where there's PlayStation Essentials, there's PlayStation Extra. Do I buy this game? Do I wait for this game? What do I do? And so it's interesting, man. Like I know, we're probably going to be talking about streaming services almost every episode for God knows how long, and it'll just be interesting to keep track and see how it affects, purchasing decisions for people, because it's a game. If Extra wasn't a thing, I'd probably buy it day one. But now that I know it's not, or that Extra is a thing, I might just wait. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and we don't even know we got a little tease of the Yakuza games coming, but we don't know the full list of PlayStation Extra and Premium games coming this month. So there could be even more stuff to play for you to get your hands on in August. So, but games are coming. Play them. Especially you, John.
Yeah. I don't play enough games.
Just don't platinum them. Just play them.
Yeah. Speaking of platinums, we'll get to that later.
All right, so moving on to the next topic. What do you got for us, John?
Yeah, so just wanted to talk a little bit about something that was a lot more prevalent in my earlier gaming years. In fact, at one point, it spoke to a lot of my favorite games, and that's kind of the gaming peripheral, right? These are things that we've had for a long time. You think back to the Virtual Boy and NES, and those even had all these crazy old looking tech things, and transitioning into the golden age of peripherals, which I would probably say was like the Guitar Hero, DDR, Rock Band, those kind of things. And yeah, just right off the bat, Nick, I just kind of wanted to see, do you have a history with peripherals or any soft spots for this kind of stuff, or is it generally you just want your controller in your hands and go?
Yeah, I'm a giant controller snob.
Yeah, of course you are.
Outside of the light gun that came with the NES, and then I bought. I just was talking to you about this. The shoot 'em up that was on PS3 that came with one.
Time Crisis 4.
Time Crisis 4. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Outside of those, I didn't buy them. As much as they were at every party I went to when I was younger, I just never got into Rock Band or Guitar Hero. I definitely did play them from time to time, but they were just something to do while I was drunk. It was never something.
You, my friend, are a fool. You're a fool.
I know. I'm definitely in the minority, because I know those were. I mean, they were huge sellers. It was a huge thing between Guitar and Rock Band. Those were some of the biggest selling games of the year. But no, yeah, I am a controller snob. That's my preferred way to play games. Even the Wiimote, I was just not into that either. I have to play games with both hands on a controller using sticks. So,
no, that's fair.
So
that's fair. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, they played such a huge part. Probably, especially in like my, let's see, what year would this have been? Probably like 2004, 2005, 2006, right? With the rise of Guitar Hero. When that came out, I remember going to Best Buy, seeing the demo for it, and like immediately just be like, oh, I like this. Like, and I've always been a very kind of like, well, this is going to sound very, I don't know, self-promoting, but I'm a coordinated guy, right? So I'm pretty good with rhythm and things. So I immediately picked it up and kind of started to even feel myself getting a little bit better and better within like the 10 minutes I was playing it. And I couldn't get it out of my head. So I think at some point in the next week, obviously this was so long ago, I can't remember specifics, I ditched school, which I never did. I never ditched school. I was actually a pretty good student, to go to Best Buy to just spend the afternoon playing that demo. And so obviously I had to get my hands on that as soon as I can. I bought Guitar Hero, got to the expert level, all that stuff pretty quickly, started to introduce my friends to it. Like you said, Nick, you can kind of really tailor a party around that, especially at the age, 14, 15, where you can't really do much more than, play video games or, try and sneak behind your parents' backs and steal alcohol or whatever. But it really was an important thing. And that obviously led into Rock Band. Rock Band, I would bet, if you were able to keep track of all the times that I spent playing like PS3 games, it's probably my number one played PS3 game. In college, I would just have friends come over. Somebody gets the guitar, I get the drums. Somebody that wants to make an ass of themselves can get the microphone and sing, and it's a good time. But like, I do wonder, are those days over? I know that Rock Band 4 tried to be a thing, Guitar Hero Live tried to be a thing, but it just seems like that those days have come and gone. And we might get there one day going forward once enough time's been removed from these things. But yeah, I think we are kind of just in this position where people don't want the clutter. They don't want these giant controllers lying around their house. And with the rise of VR and games like Beat Saber, that's honestly a little bit cooler anyway. So I don't know if we'll ever get those back, but I wanted to just talk about them because, again, they were such an important part of my childhood. And I did find, while I was just kind of looking at peripherals, Nick, I just want to read a couple of these off because they're hilarious to me, of failed peripherals that just never took off. So let me pull this up here.
Did you ever play Rocksmith? That was the other tried to lean more into the serious, hey, you're gonna learn to play guitar.
Yeah, so I own it. I own a guitar. I played it hard for about a week until I realized, oh my God, this is tough. And I've always wanted to learn the guitar. One of my best friends growing up, best man at my wedding, Dan, he is, fantastic at the guitar. So I obviously grew up watching him play and thought that, maybe this is my entry point. I love video games. I obviously, as I said, I'm pretty good at Guitar Hero. This would be the way to do it. And honestly, it's still maybe. I have it on my shelf. I've never gotten rid of it. It's something that if that day ever comes, or, if my children decide they want to play guitar, I think it's actually a pretty good entry point. But you have to still be committed to learning the guitar. It's not just like, oh, I want to play this game and have, it's like, no, you're like,
right.
It's almost like going to a tutor, right?
Yeah.
Which is good, but,
Right.
So yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to kind of go through some of these peripherals. Like did you know, Nick, Super Nintendo had a mouse that you could plug into the console?
I did know this because it was Mario Paint was a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Stupid. There's something called the Nintendo, let me see, the Speed Pad? Nah, the Speed Board. It's literally looks like a CG or a 3D printed plastic thing that your NES controller sits in, and it was marketed as allows you to hit buttons faster. So I don't know if this was the rise of the mashing buttons to get something, or maybe fighting games, but it just looks absurd. We've really come a long way. The Nintendo U-Force, it's this weird laptop-looking thing that you set your hand on, and it's supposed to read your finger inputs to mimic it in game, and it's just, there's so many bad ideas that just came and went. And so I imagine we'll keep getting some peripheral type stuff going forward, but I think there's also a reality where VR is the only peripheral that we'll need. That can, if the controller comes out for the VR2 and it, does haptics well, and the headset does haptics well, why do you need anything else? Mm-hmm. But Yeah, important part of my childhood. Just wanted to, go down nostalgia road real quick.
Sure. Do you think that Just Dance and unintentionally, because it came out before TikTok, killed peripherals? It's just a kind of a interesting thought I had, because TikTok is a huge thing. It started because it was about dancing. Just Dance is a game about dancing that is very successful and is still releasing to this day from Ubisoft. Do you think that may have had a hand in the death of physical peripherals?
I think it could definitely be a factor of it, but I would imagine the cross-section of people who are into Just Dance and like rabid TikTokers is probably not too huge. And looking at the golden age of peripherals, right? They're usually something that's around like a input or a music game, right? Like the guitar, the Rock Band, DDR, those huge pads. It's something that you can provide inputs to onto a screen to mimic, right? Which is what Just Dance is. But I think people just got kind of sick and tired of these games that would come out. It's obviously a higher entry point for price. You have to buy the big controller with it, right? I think Rock Band was $250 when it first came out, which I happily paid once I played it because I loved it. But once you start to get like, okay, I beat the shit out of this drum set, I need a new one. The next Rock Band's coming out. All it really is an updated list of new tracks, and if you don't like those tracks, why would you buy it? And then having to store these things, right? It was fine when you were actively using it, when Rock Band was a thing, but as soon as you're putting it into a closet to bust out once a year when friends come over to go down nostalgia and play it for a couple songs, it's not worth it. And so I think we just kind of got so far away from that initial zeitgeist and like, oh my God, I fucking love this, to, it's just a old thing that I used to do, that it's just, we're too far removed from our generation who like those things to try and like market it to new kids. And us adults now, we have nice apartments and wives and things that are like, hey, get this shit out of here. You can't have the Rock Band drum set in our living room. You're like, so I think that's probably the biggest reason. But, but if they can maybe, VR technology gets good enough, why couldn't you sit down in a chair and with your controllers and like just have a virtual drum kit that you can mess around with? So it'll come back in a different way. But I don't think we're going to see those large peripherals kind of enter our living spaces anymore.
Right. Yeah.
As much as I wish they might. But yeah. All right. You want to take us to the next topic, Nick?
Sure will. So, last week while talking about the PS5 software beta, we talked about probably one of the least used things, which was activity cards. There is one more thing that is even least used than that, and that is Accolades. So if you are unfamiliar with Accolades, they're introduced on the PS5, and if you go to your profile page, it's kind of divided into trophies, accolades, games, and friends. And when you click on Accolades, it's like, oh, when you're playing a multiplayer game, and you do good, people can reward you with different these accolades. It could be like leader or team player, things that show that, hey, when you play multiplayer games with this guy, he's on the objectives or whatever, he's taking charge, he's communicative, but I'll be honest, I've never used it and I never earned one, and we're a few months away from 2 years on PS5. I don't know about you, John. Did you ever receive one single accolade?
No, and in all fairness, I'm not a multiplayer guy, so like it would be weird if I did. It was just, honestly, it was kind of a piss poor idea from the get-go. It was. I understand the thought process. You want to bring people like closer together, maybe have a more intimate connection with somebody than just like a gamer tag on a screen. You can say, hey man, like I just want you to know you did a good job, but these accolades aren't even tied to game specific things. It doesn't really show a record of anything more than like, yeah, I have 15 leadership awards. Isn't that cool? Like, what does that really mean? And so and when you don't have the buy-in from other people, it's going to be a doomed failure. So no, I've never gotten one. I've never entered the accolades tab. it seems like it was probably a good move to nix this.
Right, and it was a PS5 only feature. Yeah, that's I guess that's
Oh, yeah.
we're not getting to the point. Is
Oh.
like Sony's getting rid of it. like they announced on their notice board of discontinued features that this is going away. And I was curious. I wanted to see like what is it like to give someone an accolade? Like how do you even know when you can? Like there's no John. You play Rocket League. You've never had a prompt to do it.
No.
And that's because Rocket League is technically not a PS5 game, but in Warzone, which has a PS5 SKU, when you're in a game, you can click in the right stick, and then that gives you everyone. And again, they have to be on PS5, and then you can award them an accolade. So
Yeah. See, it's so half baked, man. Like that's how could you think that that's going to be a successful program? And maybe this was just phase 1, and they thought if phase 1 worked well, they could maybe go into 2 and 3 where things become game specific, or they get more robust with the ways that you can reward people. But if you want to give people accolades, like why not let them choose what they want? Like to put people into 4 different buckets, it's so limiting, and just if you limit and remove how something could be exciting, like people are naturally going to drift away from it, and then it seems like they put all these weird little like I can't think of the right word, but like reasons or like ways that you have to do it, right? It's like, okay, accolades are sent anonymously. Why? Like why? If I want to send a message to somebody that, hey, I thought you did a good job, like, why don't you have the ability to show my name or not? And then if that person receives it, they'd be like, oh, thanks, man. Like, oh, it was good playing with you. Do you want to become friends online and we can play again for the future? But if you don't know who sent it to you, then what the hell?
It's positive feedback. Why does it matter who's doing it? It's one thing if it was negative feedback, but
or another one is you can only send an accolade to one player per match. Why? Like, why can't I send, okay, we were a great team in I don't know, Overwatch, right? And like, hey, all you did a great job. We worked as a team. We killed it. But you can't. So you just have to then, if you really want to send that message, like DM these people directly. And it's just, it just didn't seem like it had enough thought before implementation, which is weird because I feel like these companies are usually almost too thoughtful before they roll things out. But
yeah, and it being a PS5 only feature and not like you mentioned, Rocket League doesn't have a PS5 SKU. A lot of these companies aren't there yet. A lot of these multiplayer games aren't there yet, and everyone's releasing a PS4 or PS5 version. Maybe if we get further into this current hardware generation, like maybe with more people on PS5s, more people playing PS5 versions of games, it could have been used more. But as you explained, like even if it was out there for everyone, it's just such a half-baked idea. I don't think it would work even if everyone could do it.
Yeah. Did you say, or do you know if was this a launch feature or was this something they implemented?
Yeah. This was a launch feature.
So again, like okay, so the only Black Ops Cold War, like what else was there at launch that was like a multiplayer focused game? Like I guess like what was that crappy car game that was supposed to be at launch and came on the
Destruction All-Stars?
Yeah, maybe that. It's just, I don't know, man. I think it's a good thing they got rid of it. I don't think, obviously they have all the metrics, know how much it was being used, so they wouldn't get rid of it if people were actually using it. But yeah, man, get that shit out of here.
It's still there. There's no date on when it's coming. It's just like this fall. Which will probably be when this beta. This PS5 firmware beta we were just talking about last week, when that goes live for everyone, I bet you that'll be the same time this axe comes through. So
yeah, I would bet September, October on that probably.
Yep. So you can't
bye accolades.
Yeah, can't really miss something I never use. So well. So let's move into some games. Some better topics. Games
some
we're
really
playing.
Good games. Yes. So I am almost at the Platinum Trophy for Death's Door. So I've gotten every trophy in the game except for, Nick, they unfortunately make you do the second playthrough where I have to use a weakened weapon, and that's it. So it's just kind of doing the same things over again, but I'm not mad about it. This is a game that I originally played on Game Pass when I had COVID, and I was restricted into the small bedroom of my house with a shitty TV, and had to just kind of play it to the best of my abilities. And it was okay. It seemed very simplistic. This is a top-down, kind of like an isometric camera angle Zelda-like game, right? Where you're a little crow who has kind of a sword, and you're going through, and you have very tight movement, fluid combat. These enemies come on, you'll probably get 3 or 4 hits on one. You got a pretty robust dodge roll. So it's that kind of game. I'm sure you all can picture it, but playing it initially, I wasn't thrilled with it. I didn't think it was bad, but it was nothing I wanted to continue. And so we had a PlayStation sale that I think knocked this down to 50% off, and I wanted to give it another shot. Wanted to play it on my preferred platform because I recently got a nice basement with a nice TV, couch, sound system, and all that. And I'm very, very happy I did, because as soon as I put this on the OLED TV with the sound, I immediately started to like it more. I learned to appreciate the music. It's very, very pretty music throughout the entire game. It's a little somber with some, little more upbeat tracks here and there. Spoiler alert, you'll hear one at the end of this podcast that's kind of a banger. And I think it's just a really well-designed game. It kind of starts off and has one of those things that it happens a lot in games where you kind of have multiple ways you can go, and you start to feel a little overwhelmed, not really knowing what the path is. There's no map in this game. There's no HUD really that tells you where you need to go. You just kind of have to pay attention and keep going forward. And once I kind of realized that the game isn't as big as it felt, and that these doors start to open up you have a hub world, right, where it's like this bureaucratic office where you're effectively a reaper trying to send souls to the afterlife because death is not around. And you use that hub world to get to different areas. There's 3 main areas of the game where you have to take down bosses in each of those areas to reach the final area. And it's just overall a very good experience. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I would say I'm probably, after getting every trophy, probably a good 15, 16 hours in. So after getting the platinum, I'll probably put about 20 into it, because obviously I'm skipping cutscenes and dialogue and things like that. But the game does a very good job with the little things, right? It's combat. Like I said, the controls are super tight. The little crow dude does everything you want when you want him to. But the exploration is very, very good in this game as well. With a good trophy list. When you're doing a trophy list, obviously, if there's things to collect, you're probably going to have to collect all those. So you're getting all the weapons. You're getting these things called life seeds, which is actually a very clever way to do with the health system in this game. So basically, there's 50 different pots hidden out throughout all the world, and you can collect these life seeds that you're able to plant inside the pots. And initially, I didn't know if they were a reusable item or not, or if it's a one-off. So what happens is you'll plant a seed into a pot, the pot grows, and you can consume the flower to give yourself life. It refills your health all the way up to the top, and then the flower withers away. That flower will come back, though. So I don't know if it's on a timer or if it's a thing, if you go through a door, and then you come back, it'll open back up. But once I realized that, it allowed me to kind of strategically start placing these life seeds in different spots, so that I know, okay, there's a boss over here. I can come back and fill up my health if I need to. But then eventually, as the game goes on and you're looking at the Platinum Trophy, you have to fill up every single one of these things and find every single seed. But they're not hidden so well where you're banging your head against the wall. In fact, I think I got 47 of the 50 just naturally playing through the game. And so I had to go into a guide and find the last 3, but that wasn't such a big deal. But the game also does a great job with the exploration when it comes to post-game stuff. You beat the game, you beat the final boss, and most games they'll say, okay, now you can just have free roam to go about the world and find what you need to. But this game, you beat it, and immediately it allows you to access an area of the map that you weren't able to go to. And once you get to that area, there's a big bell that basically changes the game from night to day. And in night mode, there's different events happening. You go to the Lost Cemetery, and all of a sudden there's these 7 pink ghosts that are floating around, and you figure out you have to lead them to these different doors, which will then open up another door once you get all 7. And once I did that, it unlocked what's called an ancient tablet. And so I'm like, okay, well, what the heck are these? These weren't items in the original game. And then you find out that there's 6 other tablets hidden throughout the world with various minor objectives, whether it's you have to light 6 bonfires that you didn't light in a specific area of the game, or here's a new boss that you didn't have access to earlier in the game that's going to give you a tablet. And it just provided a good reason to keep going after the credits roll. And if you're a trophy hunter like myself, really provided another almost like tight new game to kind of experience to get all the things that you wanted to get. But overall it's just very, very pleasant. It had this weird melancholy but kind of beautiful like tone to it throughout the entire thing. Story's very meh, what you kind of expect from a game like this. Death was removed from the world. He was trapped by the Lord of Doors, who's originally you think is fine, turns out blah blah, he's not. And so you kind of just have to work your way through a silly little story. But the crow is very cute. If you're not moving, he's doing that thing that all birds do where they move their head really quickly, right? And like kind of like look like they're, teleporting their head around, which is like, it's kind of a cute little touch. And I know you got kind of towards the end of this game, Nick, and weren't thrilled with it. What was kind of about it that caused you to bounce off of it, would you say?
So it's funny that you said you dig the melancholy vibe. I did not dig that. So I bought this game when it came to PlayStation back in November. I got about, as you let me know, like 3/4 of the way through the game. And I was stuck at a boss, and I was trying to find like another reason like why I bounced off of it, like another game came out, but there was I didn't really win any trophies around there. Or my games list didn't like hint at any reason why I stopped. But it's very similar to like I bounce off a Hollow Knight. Is like I don't like indie games because I'm kind of moving beyond like the old school game design. And so like with Hollow Knight, which is a lot of the same tones as this, but that's a Metroidvania. Death's Door is kind of like a Legend of Zelda game, the old school game with the isometric view. And I don't know, I don't find them very fun. I don't find the gameplay very in depth, and if I hit it even the slightest wall, I just kind of bounce off. So when I was stuck on the third boss, this Yeti type creature, I was just like, I'm done. Like I'm not enjoying the game, so I'm gonna bounce off of it, and it's kind of a bummer, like this game is reviewed very well. I think it was at an 88 on OpenCritic, but sometimes you just understand like this game isn't for me, like so I just. Not to take away anything that you said, I believe all those points. Like there's a lot, like the music is phenomenal, and the gameplay is tight, and it's the avarice rooms are fun because they're just chaos, but you're usually in control, and the magic's cool, and all the little things the secrets that you find in these games are fun. But I don't know, these games just they don't speak to me anymore like they did when they were how all the games were,
Yeah, so. No, I hear what you're saying, and don't feel bad, Nick. We are allowed to have different points on games or different, different thoughts and feelings. But I think if you are a fan of smaller titles, do not sleep on this. I would imagine if you are a fan of smaller titles, you kind of already know about it. But that's interesting, the Hollow Knight comparison, because you also just found a boss that you hated, and that's the same thing that happened, right? You're like, I'm done. I don't. Yeah. And I do. I naturally like somber tones, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But like even shows like my favorite shows, right? Breaking Bad or Chernobyl, which is a HBO series that's one of the biggest downers of types of thing you can have. But I don't think it's a bad thing to have emotions that aren't happy. And
of course not.
So it's good to a little refresher every once in a while. But man, I. Very happy I played it, and I just got to get this platinum trophy, and then we'll be wrapping it up, moving on to the next thing. Yes. Yep. You'll never catch me.
Speaking of platinums, let's just get it out of the way. Platinum Watch, John. Do you have a platinum trophy to tell us about?
I do. Platinum number 32. And this one's a little special. All right. So I'm not going to do the full story, because I could probably talk about this game for hours. I have a 5-year-old son, Levi. He is the coolest kid in the world. I love him to death. He fell in love with a game called Descenders. And it's a physics-based downhill mountain biking game where you start kind of on the top of a hill, canyon, forest, whatever the map is, and you just have to get to the end of the run, which is at the bottom of a hill, right? There's gonna be obstacles in your way, there's gonna be ramps in your way, but again, it's physics-based. So right, you pull down on the right stick, the guy's gonna start doing a backflip. You push up, front flip. To go to the left, he's starting to do a 360. You hold the L1 button, and then he'll start doing tricks. And it's not a bad game, honestly. I hated this game for a long, long time because, again, Levi, I love you, but this is all he wanted to play. I'm gonna have probably 400, 500 hours in this game when it's all said and done, man. This is all he wanted to do. And so, played this game for a long time, and what I noticed pretty quickly was that it was bugged. Very, very bugged. Trophies were broken, glitches all the time in the game. It ran pretty poorly, lots of stuttering. And so I never really even thought about getting the platinum in this game. It was just kind of a game that my son, when he wanted to chill out, play some games, we could turn it on. They released an update to this thing, this game came out in 2017, so it's an old one, but they released an update a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, that's weird, where they added some new missions and things like that, but they also fixed a bunch of trophies. So when I logged into the game, I think I immediately got 9 trophies, and it got me within 3 from having the platinum. And so I obviously at that point I'm like, okay, I got to do a couple quick things to wrap this up. They're all going to be tough, but I can do this, man. I can actually do this. And so I did the other day, and it is officially my rarest trophy. I think it's 0.92% of people have the platinum in this game because, again, to get the platinum, you have to be dedicated to it. And I guess I was dedicated to it through my 5-year-old, and happy to put the game behind me. Unfortunately, he's still very much, Dad, let's play Descenders, and it's hard for me to play a game after I got a platinum, but obviously for my kid I will. But happy to say that I can rinse my hands of this game. I don't have to try to do any missions or tasks in this game anymore. And I wouldn't recommend it unless if you are a extreme sports junkie who likes score chasing, who likes collecting different, bike models and helmet models and shirts and pants and things like that. But not platinum number 32, and yeah, man, I think, what is that, Nick? That's 4 or 5 in the last month or two. So really, really turning up the heat on you and Jake to try and catch up, even though we both know you won't. So good luck, bud.
You're the worst.
I know.
Platinum trophies were supposed to be something that I enjoyed doing, that I could get a little bit extra out of the game, and you and Jake have just turned this into something that I am being compelled to do just to shut your mouth.
Nope. Listen, hold on. We both know this is Jake's fault, right? Right? I mean, you and I, we were talking games. We were playing PlayStation, all for the last 3 years, and not really worrying about platinums all that much. Here comes Jake platinums in 2020. Probably gonna have to get his name out of there. You might have to edit this. Here comes our friend, and he gets 10 platinums this year? Is that right? 10 platinums
That's
this
correct,
year?
yes.
So we went from 3 to 15, and it's just God, man, okay, well, you're coming after me. I have to step it up. So gotta step it up, man. I felt threatened.
Okay, sure. You're at, you said 31. He's at 15. I think you don't need to freak out. 30.
I don't know, man. He was at 3 in January, so.
I think you're overreacting and rationalizing this horrible behavior.
Yeah, well. Hey, if you gotta, I gotta convince myself somehow to have these horrible, hobbies where I ignore my responsibilities to get a fake, glittery trophy in a digital space. So, here's what it is.
For the record, I'm at 21, so I'm not close to John or anything. So, like I said, he's just rationalizing his behavior, but
yes,
we'll let him do that.
I'm the resident asshole. It's what I do.
It'll make it all the sweeter when I pass him. So,
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. I have also played a game That game is called Marvel Avengers. This is an interesting one. It came out 2 years ago in August of 2020. This comes from Crystal Dynamics, who are responsible for the reboot of the Tomb Raider series, to the Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider Rise of Shadows. So it's been 2 years since the game's been out. It has recently been released to the PlayStation Plus Extra tier, so I thought I would check it out. As John mentioned, I am a big Marvel fan, but I avoided this game. A little backstory on that. I played the beta, and very similar to the Anthem beta in which I played, I knew instantly that something was wrong. Something did not feel right, and so I am going to stay away from this game. So that's the backstory here. And the game came out, and it's not doing so hot. It is on a 69 on OpenCritic. But I am glad that I played it. You know, so many times when we look for games to play, we go, oh, what's the best game? Like, oh, Disco Elysium. Everyone says that's a great game. We should run out and play that. Nobody's going back and looking at, oh, these games that reviewed very poorly, and maybe I should check them out to see why they reviewed so poorly. Maybe, I'll learn something about it. So I was glad that I played a game that is getting that is 69 in OpenCritic. So I played the campaign. I completed the campaign. I have played as all the Avengers, and then the ones that they later added to the game. So Black Panther, Spider-Man. So I am very familiar with the game at the start and then the game at the end, and where it kind of converts itself from the third-person story game to a third-person live service game with a gigantic loot and level grind. So the campaign kind of starts as a, run-of-the-mill third-person game. You're getting kind of combat encounters. You're playing as Kamala Khan and the Hulk. The voice acting is tremendous. As we mentioned earlier, the Mount Rushmore of voice acting. This game stars them all. As we mentioned, Nolan North as Iron Man, Troy Baker as Bruce Banner, Laura Bailey as Black Widow, Ashley Birch as Kate Bishop, Christopher Judge, our boy Kratos, as Black Panther. That's an incredible voice lineup, and they all do a great job instilling these the characters that we know from their MCU counterparts. Like they do a great job. The acting's on point. The story, whatever. But it's a typical Avengers story. But as you move on, they slowly start seeping in all the live service games. Like your loot level starts becoming a thing. And if anyone plays Destiny 2 or any live service game, every piece of loot has a number attached to it. And as you get higher and higher, your overall loot level increases, and that gives you access to more difficult missions, more end game content. And I think the end game light level or gear level in this is 175. So you're slowly creeping that up. And then you're introduced to faction vendors, and faction vendors sell you loot, and they have levels. So if you do a bunch of quests for a certain faction, whether it be S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Inhumans, they'll sell you better gear. And then you start getting into getting mission gated. Like you can't start missions until you collect 3 of this robot part, 5 of this part from this enemy, 6 of this part. And by the end of the game, into which I beat the game, I did all those things, and then I saw the end game content. I was like, this is rough. This is rough. So it is so full of this stuff that it's overwhelming. Like, it's just like, you don't even know, like, I couldn't tell I play games. I can figure out menus pretty easily. But there's war zones, there's vaults, there's story missions, War for Wakanda, there's this, Hawkeye side mission. There's a Spider-Man side mission. It is just overwhelming. And the game is just giving this to you over and over. By the time you reach the end game, it's like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to level up Captain America? Should I get him to level 50 and gear level 150? Like, I just don't know. Like, and I know you avoid these games like the plague, John. Like, service games are not your thing. Does any of this sound appealing to you? I'm probably not painting the best light on it.
No, I mean, And it doesn't, and it's interesting, man, because these games, these live service games, just try to do anything that they can to keep their audiences and prevent you from playing other games, and that in and of itself is just so counterintuitive to why I play games. I mean, I know this might sound weird, but one of the favorite things in video games is deleting a game off my console. Right? When you beat a game and you're full, you either enjoyed it or you said I don't want any more, but like you can put it behind you. It kind of makes me feel like I've accomplished something, right? Or it's so satisfying to platinum a game and then delete it. And with these games that just constantly give you more and more and more, and just don't you want to get that number a tiny bit higher and a tiny bit higher, you have to have a damn good gameplay loop to get me to stick around. I can think of maybe a couple games ever that if they were live service games that I would stick with, like Hades, right? Like the gameplay loop in Hades is so fun that if that was a live service game where you just can continuously level up different things and whatnot, sure, I might give it a shot. Binding of Isaac's another one that comes to mind. Returnal would probably be one. These games that have such good gameplay that I want to stick around just for that reason. But from everything I've heard about this game, from everybody that's played it, it's so repetitive and so samey that there is no reason besides getting that number just a tiny bit higher to keep going forward. And so, it's the way the industry is moving. I mean, I believe Sony has said that by 2026, they're going to have 10 live service games that they'll release. And that doesn't mean they're all going to have the exact same model as an Avengers or a Destiny. Factions, Last of Us Factions could be one of those live service games. And that could be fine, because as long as the multiplayer, component of it's fun and there's a good leveling system and unlock system and things that keep you engaged, you can put that other live service games outside of that and I'll still want to play the game. But it is slightly concerning for me, seeing Sony go out and buy a team like Bungie, right? Bungie, great team, super successful. But how much effort are we really putting into these live service games? Are we just trying to do it to chase the money, or are we genuinely trying to keep that PlayStation pedigree into all of our games and just, really move the brand forward? And if Bungie can help us incorporate some elements into it, great. But I don't know, man. I don't like the idea of games in perpetuity. Rocket League is the one that I have that with, but that's apples and oranges, right? I don't think anybody in their right mind would compare Avengers and Rocket League. They're two different experiences entirely. So I'm happy that I'm glad you got through it. How long did the campaign take you, would you say? Like just the campaign?
It was over 10 hours for sure.
Okay, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, the live service part of it is just to get you to buy stuff. I didn't mention that part. It was like on top of the grinding of the gears, there is a store in which you can buy, all the different skins. You can unlock new finisher moves and new banners and all that kind of stuff. So that's what they're trying to do, right? They're getting you to play the game, get attached to these characters, and hopefully you choose to spend money on it. And even just taking let's remove the live service part of it and just the game itself. As I mentioned, the voice acting is great, and the animation is incredible. The characters animate incredibly well. Like throwing Captain America's shield, to have it come back, to kick it out of the air again and send it back out to hit these enemies is incredible. To do all the crazy Black Widow moves and spin around guys and all these wrestling moves that she does, and then whip out your pistols and then zip line away. That feels satisfying. Or even just Iron Man,
I do always like it when Black Widow whips it out. I will say that.
And then Iron Man, the beams and the pulse, the missiles and the pulses that he shoots out of his hand. That it looks great. It feels great. But you're doing all this stuff against very as you mentioned, all the same enemies over and over again, and very spongy enemies. So doing all these sweet moves into a giant mech that just shakes it off is very boring. It sucks. And
so,
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's a question to wrap up the conversation. So please finish your thought.
And we're not even getting into the issues that I'm running into in a game that is 2 years old. You know, it's about to turn 2 years old. Is the load times are bad on PS5 on the PS5 SKU.
Really?
Yes.
I haven't come across a bad loading PS5 game yet. That's interesting.
They're not so bad by yourself, but when you're factoring in other people loading in, they're noticeable. But they're still noticeable by yourself.
Sure.
Like when you are playing with other people, the network issues of other players just glitching around and, you know, the frame rate dropping as they're moving around the screen is very like off-putting, because if you're with three, you play up to 1 to 4 players. If you're playing with 3 of your friends, it's just like, how are you supposed to coordinate what you're all doing? Like it's just like chaos on the screen. And then there were the bugs. And it's been a while since I've seen some good bugs, you know, and I played Cyberpunk this year. But loading into a match and being under the map as Iron Man and looking up and seeing all the other players moving on top of the map and just having to fly my way to them, or when you're going in between matches, or you're not at the home bases, you sit on your Quinjet. You know, all the heroes just sit there. I had this bug where whenever I was on the Quinjet, the DualSense vibrate was on like max, like it was just going crazy. And you were like, yeah, exactly. And then I would go into a game, you know, do my thing, complete the mission, go back into the Quinjet, and it would do it right again. It would go right back into it. You know, I even like turned the controller off. You know, if I popped out to the main menu, it turned off. But the second I was back in the game in the Quinjet, it was just nonstop vibrating. So, you know, it's just. And
it seems like Crystal Dynamics was just really out of their element with this. You know, a team that is primarily focused on single-player games in the past. You know, they did the Tomb Raider games. Maybe got a little bit out of their element with that.
Well, you gotta hand it to them, kind of, because like this is a hard task. It's like we're all familiar with the Avengers. Like, they don't all play the same. There's similarities between a few of them, but like Thor doesn't play the same as Black Widow, as Hulk or Kamala Khan. You know, all these characters are just their powers are so wild. You know, it's like if you wanted to do a DC super game and you're like, oh, we're gonna put Batman next to Superman next to the Flash. It's like, as a game designer, I'm just like, and they all have to exist in the same area, and then they also have to fight the same enemies. Like, they mostly succeed in that part. Like I said, they all feel like the characters, but yeah, it's just it was too much. I think it was
right.
And maybe the tools and the engine, because like this was previous gen hardware. On top of that, we're just not there to get it well across the finish line. And I'm sure the poor sales don't help with the continued support of this game. So.
Yeah, that might have been a game that like literally the only team on the face of the earth that could have pulled it off was like Bungie, right? Somebody that knows how these systems work and has the tools and size and all that stuff. But I guess one question about it, Nick, one final question is, are you happy with it, or does it make you sad that one of your favorite IPs got done dirty like this? Or like, I guess, do you wish that this game didn't get made and that maybe we would get like an Avengers style game done by the right team or something like that?
That's a really hard question. I don't know. I'll never hate the effort, right? Like, you know, they tried, and maybe if there was a character they released that I was more drawn to, you know, like a Wolverine or one of the X-Men. I would just stick it out because, you know, I just enjoy playing that character. I would like to see it through to get all their gear and all that stuff. But and it's crazy because this also, you know, kind of tarnished Guardians of the Galaxy, which was also released by Eidos a year later, and I love that game. That was one of my favorite games. Yeah. So it would be interesting as all these rumors come out of more and more Marvel characters, more studios getting games. I'll be curious to see how those all turn out on top of Marvel's Wolverine from Insomniac. So, no, I don't fault them. Like I said, I think it feels good. It feels good to throw Mjolnir and hit guys with it. It just has a weight and theft to it. And, you know, I
believe it's pronounced Mjolnir.
So. So no, like I said, I'm glad I played the game. I think it almost got there. Like it's just, I wonder if they removed the live service elements entirely, and it was just a single player / co-op game, which I guess I meant to mention this is like this makes me more curious what Gotham Knights is, because I think that is what Gotham Knights is trying to be, is try to pull back from the live service elements that plagued Avengers and just be a loot co-op game set in the Batman universe within the Bat family. So I'm really curious how that's going to turn out, but I also think Crystal Dynamics is a better studio than the studio doing Warner Brothers Montreal that's doing Gotham Knights. So, but I'll keep my eye on Gotham Knights. But I did have that thought, is like, I'm definitely not excited for Gotham Knights now. Like after playing this.
How could you be? Well, here's what I'm hoping, Nick. Here's what I'm hoping happens for you, specifically for you, is that Avengers comes out, meh. Gotham Knight comes out, they improve on the formula. A couple years from now, somebody's going to make an X-Men game just titled X-Men, where you get like 8 to 10 different X-Men. You can be Gambit, Wolverine, Beast, whatever, Cyclops, and it's the same thing but done to perfection. So that's what I'm putting out into the world for you right now, and hopefully that can, be something for you in the future, because I know that would probably be your wet dream project. But
maybe Insomniac's building to that.
Yeah. Insomniac's just trying to get like all the superhero games out of the way so they can just put them all into one thing.
Yeah, they're building their own MCU.
God, that'd be something.
All right, so we're done with that. Let's move on to the final topic. John.
All right. Super quick. This will be a super quick one. So this will be the second appearance on this podcast of, I'm going to title it The Wheel of Destiny. We're going to figure out what game I am playing next after Death's Door.
The wheel
of games. I put 6 games on a wheel, for the next thing I'm going to jump into. So real quick, going to go through the games. So similar to Nick, I have Death Stranding on my list. I've played a little bit of it, but Nick and I, it's kind of a blind spot for us, and being that it's Kojima, really curious about the actual story of this game. I have a good feel for the way that it handles and stuff now, which I think I can get behind as long as the story is good enough to pull me through. So hoping that that would work out for me. Then I have Disco Elysium, same kind of thing. I've played a little bit of this game. I know Nick said that you shouldn't have to play a game just because it reviews very well, but Nick, I don't have as much willpower as you, so I see a 92 or a 93 or these lists that come out saying, greatest game of the generation. I'm so curious. I have to at least see it a little bit more. And then I have Cyberpunk 2077 for PS5. Obviously nothing more needs to be said about that game, but I've held off on playing it to make sure I can experience a good version of it. Then we have Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the Essentials, one of the Essentials games for this month. We talked extensively about it last week, but Nick and I did watch a trailer for this game today, and I think, Nick, that you will agree, much more excited to try and get into this now after watching the trailer. Would you agree? Yes,
I definitely plan on playing this this week.
Yeah, so might get into that, and then have Gran Turismo 7, which has been one that's been on my list for a long time. And honestly, if this is the game that gets picked, it probably wouldn't be my primary focus, because it's hard for me to dedicate just straight game time to like a game like that, right? It's more of a good side game when you want to like relax for a bit, or maybe just do a race or two. So
I think your TV is going to make you feel otherwise.
Oh, right. My TV and my sound, with the sound system and the TV, man.
I think your setup's going to change your mind on this real quick.
Well, and kind of just real quick, going back to our peripheral conversation, I've always wanted a wheel, too. So, that is kind of a space where peripherals do still exist, is that high end, wheels and flight sticks and things like that. So, if that game gets picked, at least get me to buy it and check it out. And then finally, one of the last games from the PS4 generation that I'm still trying to get to, we'll see if I do or not, is Dragon Quest XI. That's a bear, and I'm honestly hoping that one doesn't get picked here. But similar to your Persona 5, JRPG that's 80 to 90 hours long, so it's a big one, but something I still want to do. So can I get a drum roll, Nick?
Can you hear that?
Oh yeah. All right, let's see. You fucking. Want to guess, Nick? Want to guess?
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding. My lord.
Kojima, it's like a Kojima curse or something. I don't understand.
All right, yeah, and that's fine because I'm honestly already playing it. So just real quick behind the curtains, Nick and I have done this wheel thing now 5 straight spins with 6 options each, Death Stranding every time. So the universe is trying to tell us something. I guess we got to do it.
All right. Well, if you're gonna start playing it, I'll continue playing it. I kind of fell off, but I'll try it again. So
okay, it
so
would be interesting to
this.
have a side-by-side, discussion about the game. But
sure.
All right, well there it is, folks. Death Stranding will be talked about going forward. And Will, if you're still listening, this is for you, baby.
All right, here we go.
Yep. Go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure if we both completed this, it would be a whole podcast topic because it'd be like
easily.
Because just as we talked about before, this game is
what the
insane.
fuck was this? What the fuck was that? What the fuck is going on over there?
Yeah.
What the fuck was he thinking?
Yeah, exactly. So. All right. Well, we did it again. 6 things are in the books. John, what are we leaving them on?
Yes. So some of that fantastic Death's Door music that I was mentioning earlier. This is probably the most upbeat track where you kind of, when you have to go in and fight some mini boss battles with some harder enemies. It's titled Avarice. And yeah, man, enjoy. It's pretty awesome stuff.
Yes, great track from David Fenn, who did the whole soundtrack from the game. So you guys will get a kick out of it and hopefully check the game out.
Sweet.
All right, so that's it. We will be back next week with more things. Until then, everyone, we will see you. Bye, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.